absolutely nice. But just a moment ago, they were learning how to exercise to rap and hip hop.
Yes, I was there last Wednesday, remember?
Right.
So it's just good that the kids are there and classes are selling out. And we actually have an active program, so I have no problem with it.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem either. I'm just saying that on my end, I can still, basically there's about 15 people out on the porch. So.
Yeah, Wednesday's a popular class.
Yeah. Oops. And also, I don't have Teresa here and John's not quite here. So I'm busy admitting people. I don't think I could run the meeting and admit people, and John's going to be chairing. So it is officially 7 o'clock, but like I said, for those who are just entering, the class that was here at the South Seas House with parents and the kids is just winding down. You guys can't probably hear it, but it's really noisy behind me on my end. So we're going to wait a couple of minutes in order to start. I have enabled the live transcript, the closed captioning. If you're interested in capturing the transcript, then you can go to, let's see, more on the bottom of the panel, and it would say captions, and you can let it play and then also save it if you want it. But because we're doing a transcript, it would be good if each time you speak that you say, this is Laura, this is Donna, and we're all going to forget to do that, but it's better so that the transcript captures who it is that's speaking. Hi, John. So, haven't really started the meeting. I mean, I have started everything, but I haven't called the meeting to order because it's very noisy and a lot of people are joining, which is a good thing. But, okay, so it's 7:02. Should we just wait till the noise dismisses? Let's see if you're still on. Are you chairing? I can't chair in the course of this meeting. I'm going to have to join the chair.
I don't have it.
No, I didn't, and I didn't bring the agenda. I mean, I brought the agenda here, but I didn't bring it. The first item is the one.
Yeah, that's the one I'm.
Right. So Teresa's here, but on her phone, so I can't even make a co-host to let people in. And as you can see, the transcript is.
Do you need me to log in on Zoom?
Well, I might, because we have a lot of people, Teresa, and a lot of noise, but I can make you a co-host then, and you can help keep people in the room.
Okay. I need a couple of minutes.
Okay. So okay. I'll see you when you re-arrive.
I can help if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Donna, you know how to do that? Because I'm happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All you have to do is make me a co-host.
Okay, I am making you a co-host.
Okay. And I can let people in.
Thank you. Because you know what happens is in the middle of the meeting, someone's internet drops and then they need to log back in. So okay, so we'll officially start in 1 more minute.
Is that John Arnold I see?
Is that who?
John Arnold?
It is.
Hi, John.
I need to turn your computers a couple degrees towards me.
Well,
oh, there I am.
Yeah.
This I'm talk.
Yeah, you might need to.
No, they got me.
I got you now. I got you square.
Got me square.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Yes, perhaps. Yes, perhaps. Oh, is there an owner representative for Jefferson Heights?
Where? Teresa's here. I know I'm expecting. Expecting this. Yeah.
I have a project to do tonight, and my staff just.
I thought there she is.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
I see that. And there we go. So I'm going to X that out. And we can call the meeting to order at 7:05. This is Laura speaking. Laura and John are here at the South Seas house, as are a bunch of parents and kids and staff, which is a great thing. This house is very active. But when John or Laura speaks, we're going to try to remember to say, this is John or this is Laura, because we're running a live transcript.
Hey, everybody. I'm John Arnold. I'm co-chair for the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee in Jefferson Park.
So this is Laura, and I'm going to share the screen with the agenda.
This is Abby.
And let me know if you can see the agenda.
We can see the agenda.
Perfect. Okay. So on tonight's agenda, we have a lot of things, 4 items. They're all basically initial reviews. Oh, and John and Laura have to remember to look at the TV screen. I have a habit of looking at the computer screen and then I'd be looking away from everybody. Sorry. But these are all initial reviews, and I don't believe we have any applicants here, but there are actually a lot of people here. So somebody might be a representative that I'm not aware of. But we'll be looking at them initially, and then we'll be looking at them again later. But we wanted to get some input as to, what we'd even be talking to applicants about. So the agenda, we will go through the welcome, call to order, et cetera. John will run that. Have general public comments on items not on this agenda. And then we're taking a look at EDI project, meaning 100% affordable, applying under the mayor's emergency orders for 2075 West Jefferson. We'll be looking at an application to renew a conditional use permit beverage, CUB, to continue to allow beer and wine sales at the 7-Eleven at the corner of Washington and Western. I'm going to quickly, and hopefully we won't be yawning too much, go through the new processes and procedures ordinance. There's a big slide presentation. It's up in our agenda packet. I'm going to go through it really fast and just stop on the items that affect us that I'm aware of. And then last but certainly not least, an initial review of a big proposal at 1828, 1830 Southwestern. And it doesn't say this on the agenda. Well, it does. It's the former Ross Medical Annex complex. And it involves not the big, large Ross Plaza building, the mid-century modern, but the rest of the complex. And with that, John, do you want to let me scroll back up to this item 1.
So we have no voting things tonight. Is that true?
We're not
Okay.
well, possibly we could take an action. on the
Welcome
CUB.
everybody. I'm the co-chair with Laura. And as we adopted several years ago, we have UNNC. Oh, first of all, welcome everybody. We're going to go around the room as soon as I give my introduction. A couple of years ago, we adopted to have a declaration process for everyone who attends the meeting. Everyone who attends the meeting is a participant and is welcome to give input on any agenda item. But if there are any items to be voted upon, we want anybody who is wanting to vote and expecting to vote to declare their status as a stakeholder in the UNNC area. And Laura, you know the stakeholder Can you please describe?
Yes, a stakeholder is considered a person who lives, works, owns property, whether or not they live here, owns property within the boundaries of UNNC, attends school, is the parent of a child who attends school, attends, worships here, and or is essentially a community interest stakeholder. And that would be a person who declares their stakeholderness through a nonprofit 501c3 that has some sort of bricks and mortar address within the boundaries of UNNC. So there's a lot of ways to be a voting stakeholder, but the way that's not possible is if you live in the Valley and they always use the Starbucks example, and you have coffee at our local Starbucks every once in a while. John?
So thanks, Laura. So we go around the room and everyone can introduce themselves if you choose. So I'll start off. My name is John Arnold. I live in Jefferson Park. I am a stakeholder.
Yes, and I am Laura Myers, and I live in Angeles Vista. I am with John, the co-chair of this committee, and I'm on the UNNC board, and I am a stakeholder.
David
Saffer.
Good evening, David Saffer. I am a stakeholder under a couple of those different definitions. I live in Jefferson Park.
Great. I'm just going to go around as I see people on the screen. Steve. Peckman.
I'm Steve. Yes, I'm Steve Peckman. I am a stakeholder by many of the definitions as well, as David stated. I am a resident of Jefferson Park, about a block and a half from the number 3 agenda item of the complex that's being proposed for the Burger Palace site.
Thanks, Steve. Rosie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosie Brown. I live in Jefferson Park, and I am a stakeholder.
Thank you, Rosie. Michael.
My name is Michael Kimbrough. I live in the Avenues. I am also a board member of UNNC, and I'm a stakeholder and very interested in our controlled development of our environment.
Thanks, Michael. Other Michael's iPhone.
Hi, I'm Michael Soderstrom. I am a resident of Harvard Heights and a UNNC board member.
Thanks. Donna Jones.
Donna Jones, resident of West Adams Avenues, and I am a stakeholder.
Edgar Castaneda. Thanks. If you don't wish to, just remain silent and I'll go by you. Edgar. Okay, thanks. Diane Newman.
I'm Diane Newman, and I'm a stakeholder. I live about 2 blocks from the burger stand, so I'm very much interested.
Great. Burger stand is at the corner of Jefferson and Arlington.
And Arlington, yes. So I'm about 2 blocks from there.
Claudia.
Hi, I'm Claudia Lavaretta. I also live about 2 blocks away from the burger stand, and I guess I would be a stakeholder because I own a home here, so.
You definitely are. So, Kristen.
Hi, Kristen Riddick. I am a stakeholder. I live in Jefferson Park, also very close to the Burger Palace, and I am president of the historic Jefferson Park Block Club for my area.
Right. And I will correct myself. The parcel's kitty corner to the parcel at Arlington and Jefferson are not in the UNNC footprint. So if you're at the southeast corner of Jefferson and Arlington, you're welcome to participate, but you're not in the UNNC footprint. And if you have a...
Seriously? Arlington isn't, is it?
The corner's right there. So yeah, search out your neighborhood council if you live out there, but please, we welcome your input here. Teresa Masonette.
Hello, everyone. I'm Teresa Masonette. I'm on the board of the UNNC, and I represent the West Adam Avenues, and I'm a stakeholder.
Any more?
I don't think so.
Have I missed anybody? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And I'm being told maybe to lower the volume. So that's okay. So Teresa, tell us
I will. It's sounding a little bit better. It was just there was some feedback or background noise, but it's much better now.
Okay.
So welcome everybody. So our first agenda item is public comment. So this is any public comment that anyone has that's not agendized below this agenda item. So anything else in the neighborhood that you want to report, we can't discuss or vote upon it. But if you want to report or request anything, please let us know now. Laura. Oh, Steve Wallace is here.
Yeah.
Laura.
Well, hi, Steve Wallace. We know you're a stakeholder and you live in Harvard Heights and own a business there too. This is Laura, and I just wanted to say, if you've signed up for the mayor's emails, you got this email as well, but the permanent alfresco dining ordinance begins to take effect on February 1, and that's where the application portal opens. All the restaurants that have temporary permits from COVID to have outdoor dining, they were extended to July 1, at which point they will expire. So from February 1 to June 30th is a time period, if you have any friends who own restaurants or, they need to know this. This is a time period they have to go into that portal and apply for their permanent thing.
I have a comment.
Okay, John.
Hey everybody. So I live with the person who is the UNNC's representative for the LAX roundtable that just had their meeting this afternoon, the first one since I think November. So LAX roundtable, we are on that. We are invited to that board. We've been on that board for that roundtable for about 6.5 years now, based on the flight path change that goes right over about 29th Street, 28th Street. That changed in 2017. So, as you might guess with the FAA, nothing has happened. We've won the lawsuit that didn't mean anything, and nothing is moving forward, and there's aggravation afoot. So what next week, the next Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, Kurt, who is our representative appointed by the board, will be giving an update on what's happening at LAX. And they're trying their best to make changes there so we get some relief all throughout West Adams.
So this is Laura. That would be February 7th, I believe, Wednesday, February 7th. Are there any other general public comments? Okay, moving on.
I can have this one, John.
Yes, this is Jefferson.
So item number 3, if you can actually bring it back up.
That was,
So we can read it.
just for you. Okay.
So item number 3 is case number ADM 2024, very fresh, 174 DB VHCA, ED1. That's probably key. I'm actually just noticing now it's 2024, which means it was
Just
processed in 2024.
Yeah, I'm not sharing the screen.
Which makes, okay.
Just
So
use
so this project is falling under ED1. ED1 is the mayor's initiative that was instated about a year ago when Mayor Bass, when it came into office. And basically it streamlines 100% affordable housing. It allows for a lot of non-discretionary approvals and that administrative approvals, which this project is falling under. That is recently, I don't know if it's been adopted yet.
Do you want
Or
the application?
Probably the plans. I mean, they're
How about this site? I'm going to share.
Sure.
I'm sharing the screen while
Yes,
John's
okay.
talking.
So this is Burger Palace. Anyway, so this is under, I think it's under ED1, which is a streamlining process that allows projects that are 100% affordable to go to the front of the line and to get administrative approvals for a lot of things that used to be discretionary or that would come to UNNC officially. You might notice on the agenda that this says discussion only. That means that is because that we aren't, there's no open door for us to make an official comment from UNNC. It doesn't mean we can't make community comments.
John,
So-
can I interrupt for just a second? Laura, if you're thinking you're showing something, all we're seeing is your file folder that you clicked on, opening up.
I did.
You have to
well-
stop sharing.
Okay.
You must have been sharing just that application.
Yeah, okay. So,
Sorry about that.
So this project was filed under that, and just this is a minor full disclosure that this applicant approached my firm, KFA, in November of the last year to take on this project, which we declined. So I do know something about this site, and it's a 3-parcel site. It is the Burger Palace. It already has its highway dedications that were taken years ago, so they're all already in place. Has a lot of wires crisscrossing it. So this applicant is looking to put 100 units on the site, and there's a state law that says if your site is within high vehicle miles traveled, it's called a VMT area. This is not an area that's affected by AB 2097, which allows no parking. It's a high VMT area, which also allows no parking. So no parking is required. And it also allows, if you're 100% affordable housing that's in proximity to transit, to have unlimited density. And so this applicant is asking for unlimited density, and density has nothing to do with building volume. It has only to do with the number of units. And they're also asking for a raft of incentives. I'm not sure you can turn this. It's annoying that they're all sideways. No, it's not. It's the files themselves are sideways.
right. But I'm gonna go to the pictures
Yeah. So
and then share.
So what they're doing is they're invoking state law for unlimited density, which is number of units. And then they're also invoking incentives. And I don't know who's read this. So the incentives are height add. They get an automatic height add of 33 feet for state law. This is state law, not city law. They get a waiver from environmental review. They can take incentives for setbacks. And in this case, they're in the South LA CPIO, which has a lot of, I see your hand up, Steve. Do you want to interject before I finish talking? Or do you have a statement?
If you don't mind, I don't know if you're getting to this. I know probably a number of people at this meeting, me included, don't understand when you said that UNNC cannot comment on it, what that's about.
Sure. So that's because under 81, it's we can comment all we want. We just don't have an official entree to say they are not required. The applicant, if they were a different applicant, they might have come to us anyway and asked for our input, but they have not. This is a 2024 application. That means they submitted it within the past week or two, which actually is important. I'll get to that later. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So
there is a pathway for UNNC to comment if it wants to, as an organization representing the neighborhoods.
It's not. It's not a discretionary approval. It's administrative approval. It doesn't mean we can't reach out. There's just no requirement and we also, it would behoove us, I believe, to reach out to the council office and say, hey, wait a minute. Right. We know we don't have a say in this officially, but we know you have your ear and you have the power to affect change. But let's get to that later.
And Laura's interrupting interjecting for a moment. The images in this PDF are coming up sideways, and I am not seeing in the Acrobat program on this computer the ability to spin the thing. So sorry, we'll have to look sideways.
You should be.
So John, the purpose of my
I know we should be able to flip it.
Yeah, that's okay. The purpose of my question, though, was just to make sure that our most local elected officials, which is the UNNC, aren't silenced by any of this. That if the board does decide it wants to comment or it wants to approach a CD10 council person or whomever, that our elected representatives do have a pathway to do that and ability to do that.
That is correct. We can say anything we want at any time we want to whoever we want. Right. And whether they listen to us is up to them and up to their best. So of course we have a good rapport with CD10, and Hakeem has been historically open to our comments, and so there is definitely there is a
Right.
there is a path for us to say something. We aren't silenced.
Okay, so Michael also has his hand up. Can John
Yeah,
finish?
quick question.
Wait. John, did you have more to say?
Sure. And so this
And then I'll
also,
call on you, Michael.
Okay,
so
thanks.
there's a lot of unclarity about how powerful ED1 is to make other discretionary approvals moot. And in this case, there's CPIO, which is our specific plan for South LA, for CPIO review, and for the HPOZ, which this is in the Jefferson Park HPOZ. So you could probably guess by the design of this did not go through any HPOZ review. It did not even go through a John Arnold's opinion, taking my hat off his chair and putting a hat on. It didn't go through any opinionated observation about design quality. And so, which one might expect in our city as a whole, and even more specifically in HPOZ, which is a design review process. So we don't know what our ability is to chime in, to petition to the planning department, to petition to OHR, the Office of Historic Resources, which manages the HPOZ process. We just don't know. And if anyone who read through the project description, which was written by the land use consultant that goes through the incentives, there are a number of points that stand out to me that are not clear. For example, the one that I went to immediately looking for is it says, we are entitled to 3 incentives, and they immediately listed 7 incentives and waivers. And there is, when you're invoking unlimited density, you can't invoke unlimited waivers like we had at 1828 Gramercy. They had a finite density based on planning and zoning, or the zoning code. So they were invoking unlimited incentives. This is not that. This is invoking unlimited density, because the density, I think, is capped at around 40 or 50 units. So they're invoking that, but that does not allow them to invoke unlimited waivers. And even, and this is where the 2024 comes in, you might have noticed that it said we are reducing open space by 91%. I know 81 version 2, which is 2024, I don't think it's passed yet, is saying you can only limit open space by so much. So they're invoking a lot of things. And so I'm asking, there are questions that I have to make sure that there are not errors on the land use consultant side, assumptions on the developer side, and oversight by the planning department to not catch such things. And this is where from my view, and I'm sorry if I get wonky on this, is that if there is a way for us to affect change to get this project to be more fitting in the community, in my opinion, it is not at this moment, then that might be it. But other than that, we are at a crossroads where we have to decide as a group how we want to approach it, who says what, and then it has to be, then 81, I think it's, God, I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. It's either 60 or 90-day approval process.
It's very fast.
So time is of the essence. And so we have to talk about as a group who we approach. And it might be CD10 ASAP, just to say, wait. We want to make sure that all the rules are being followed. And if they aren't, that the design is changed. There are also other design problems with this. As an architect, I know what they are. Wires being one of them, which they haven't accommodated, but that's for them to decide. I also don't want a project that gets entitled that can't be built without really conniptions or really a lot of wrenching between all departments. Okay. So that said, let's take questions.
I was going to make one more comment. That obviously, this is also within the HPOZ, and I imagine David may have some comments, but the last time we had an ED1 project in an HPOZ, which was Harvard Heights HPOZ, they did not go to the board, but they were required to have the HPOZ staff had to do a clearance saying it met the preservation plan. I think this one clearly does not meet the Jefferson Park preservation plan. So another thing that could happen, but I think there's a risk for David to do it, just in case they are planning to go to the HPOZ board, you would have to recuse.
Clarify who David is.
David Saffer's on the board. So meaning, I think David could not write a letter to the planner saying, in my expert opinion, this does not meet our plan, just in case it ever got scheduled, you'd be out of the room. So we need to figure out how to evaluate whether it meets the plan without engaging the HPOZ board members.
Yes.
So there were three hands up.
I have a question for Dave. David, I was walking by the library last night and saw the board meeting.
Yes.
Was this on the agenda at all?
It wasn't on the agenda, but it came up in public comment.
Okay.
Our staff, it is not going to come to the board the way ED1 is written. It will not come to the board because it is a non-contributing site. It does not have to adhere to the HPOZ, or it is allowed to be an ED1 project. The project has already been submitted to our planner. He is in process of reviewing it. But because the way they've written, and John, you probably know this, is they can only use the objective standards.
Correct.
Not so. They can't really say, oh, it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like the other buildings in the area. That's not an objective standard. So.
Well, do you have, I can't remember because, some of us are involved in helping write the preservation plan, and I was one of those people, but I don't remember, did we approve corrugated metal as a usable material?
No, but it's not, as all these plans are written, they use words like highly or undesirable or not suggested, but they don't say you cannot. And that's where they become unenforceable.
Right. Well, it's unenforceable, but it would allow the planner, if the planner chose.
Right. Now
to say in the evaluation, the preservation plan strongly suggests that not using corrugated metal, would you please consider using a different thing? The citywide guidelines also would suggest that.
Now, my other question is, John, you said they're asking for TOD exemptions or bonuses?
No, it's state density bonus law, so it's not TOC. This is not a TOC zone. We have a strip in Jefferson Park that's not in the TOC.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because when they said they're asking for transit, high transit, it's like, okay, are they talking about bus lines and train? Because
so there's two levels of transit. It's been a half mile from a major transit stop, which this is not.
Right.
This is a map that's put out by SCAG, the Southern California.
Hang on a second. I just want to know, did I switch what we're looking at?
We're seeing the city planning application.
Perfect.
So there's two ways to get the highest state incentives for transit. One is to be a half mile within a major transit stop, which this is not. The nearest one is on Western, and then we're more than a half mile from Western. And the other one is a designation called VMT, vehicle miles travel, low vehicle miles travel. This is a low VMT. You can see that on ZMIS. That map is put out by SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments. And so this project, the site is allowed to invoke the state laws that revolve around proximity to transit.
Okay, so here it says it's requesting 4 incentives and waivers. Right.
So would that give them additional density or just the parking requirement, John?
Density, they get unlimited. Parking, they get 0 parking if they choose to. So those two are off the table automatically. It's all the other nuances of the CPIO, which has transitional height, ground floor uses, ground floor height, and all the city zoning setbacks. There's a height. FAR is a tough one because FAR is like 1.5 and they're asking for 3.67.
Right. Well, is height on the table for a waiver or off the table, John?
It is on the table, but I believe it counts for one of the waivers.
Right, because it's isn't it 1 VL? Isn't the height district 1 VL?
They get 30. They get 3 floors and 33 feet.
Right, and they're asking for a lot more.
They're asking for 70 something.
It's 45 plus 33.
They're asking for 6 stories.
70, it'd be 78. I think they're asking for 71.
As one of the incentives.
SB.
I believe it's one. There's so many nuances with this, with what is now an automatic incentive and what is not, and it's changing beneath. This is what I do for my job, and I can't keep up with it.
Right.
I have to keep reminding myself what's by right, what's an incentive, and what isn't. But I know they're trying. They can. So if you can imagine, unlimited waivers, unlimited density means we can get a 120-story tower with 1,085 units, and then they get it by right.
Okay,
But
Michael,
that's what it seems. That's why I want to make sure that they're not making as many mistakes, because the land use consultant can be making a mistake, and then the city can make a mistake review.
okay, so Michael had patiently been waiting, and
Yes.
Steve has also patiently been
Let's
waiting,
do it.
but Michael was patiently waiting first.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys are moving a little faster for me. I have a couple of basic questions. I saw AB and there was a number associated with that application. Can you scroll up again?
Which one, the app?
Yeah, where you were before, you were along the application. It was citing the ED1 and another document, an AB number. No, I think it's, I don't know.
You know
what it is.
what, that's probably on agenda, sir. It's probably on our agenda.
That's fine. Okay, so the other, I may have missed it.
It's ADM, which means administrative, and then the, 2024 174. DB is density bonus. HCA, the V, like Victor, stands for vesting. So these people are trying to speed through and not lose anything. And the reason is that the actual implementation ordinance for the
Right.
mayor emergency order takes away some of the things that the mayor granted.
Right,
So
that's what
they paid for a V vested housing application ED1.
That's what I'm trying to understand, Laura. I get all the other, but what is and John, you mentioned this a minute ago, that they're under the 24 year, and there's a new SB that they're citing as reference to what they're doing. Is that true?
I'd have to see there's a lot of things that were enacted on January 1.
Right.
The ordinance that codifies ED1, I believe, was not.
Right.
Okay, what about
I would say, to clarify, the ordinance that is codifying ED1 is pending at city council. So
Okay.
that
Is
it
there
has
an
not been city council.
Is there an SB number that I can pull up that you believe they're using as the basis for moving this thing forward at the pace?
No, the basis I can answer that. They're using the mayor's emergency order that she signed. It's the emergency order number 1,
Right.
essentially, as their basis.
But I thought I heard.
And they want to hang on there, and they're trying to retain her really lax rules and regulations. So that's why they paid for the vesting.
I understand. I got that. I'm just wondering, I heard John reference earlier, everybody was talking so fast. I was trying to keep notes of an SB number.
I didn't refer to there's an AB 2097.
Oh, I misheard you. Okay. Is there an SB number that I can go to?
So the SBs are really overarching. The ABs usually refer to the state density bonus law. And AB 2097.
That AB number is 20 something. I saw it on the application.
2097.
Thank you. Okay. I'll start there. Okay, thank you.
AB 2097 removes all parking requirements from commercial and residential uses that are within a half-mile of transit.
Got it. That's a TOC4 location, right?
It is not a TOC. It's not even a TOC1. It's a TOC0, but it has the VMT on it, which is.
But don't you have to be a TOC4 to use AB 2097?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Steve, I'm sure you have a lot.
Thank you. This is Steve Peckman. I don't know that I have a lot, but I do have a few questions. This is confusing to me, and hopefully John can help work through this. So as I read the developer's description, that narrative document that was provided, there's a section called waivers. And he says, or she says that they're saying that they're requesting 5 waivers or 7 waivers, however many there are. And it's not clear to me. So is there an entity in the city that's going to adjudicate the waivers? Is that something, or is that something they're entitled to have?
Well, and it's, Steve, it's confusing to everybody because essentially the word waivers, incentives, and concessions are all about the same. And they get so many of them. It's just that sometimes incentives are named, like height is a named incentive, but the height, that the ground floor elevation of the CPIO is not a named concession, that becomes a waiver. And so, but in general, and this is where it gets vague for me, because this I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the sentence above this says we are taking 3 incentives. And so I don't know. They're taking in transitional height, but they also need height. And so it's very unclear to me. And this is, to me, this section right here is the one I don't want the city to rubber stamp or anyone to make a mistake on. And they've already made one mistake in this where they talk about their parking and they didn't acknowledge that they're AB 2097. They talk about their parking. But the woman who wrote this is usually pretty competent. And so I don't know what's happening because we don't have a window to ask officially. They can shut us out, and that's where the frustration sets in, because it's like I have deep questions about the validity of this list. And I know if it was me putting this out, I would be way more careful and frankly conscientious about the things that go over and above that just break all the rules, and we just get a 6-story block in the middle of an HPOZ with a CPIO and next to our
And I might add, this is Laura speaking, and I know Steve still got your hand up. Are you guys seeing this list of incentives off menu? Again,
Yes.
I keep fine, because I just now keep sliding what I've got open, so I'm hoping it works. But letter C, waiver of development standards, and then that list. Well, I would argue, and in fact have argued on the project near my house, that if the CPIO says this and this and this, that's not a development standard, that's part of the zone. So these are almost the equivalents of variances from the zoning requirements, not a simple waiver of development standard. In my opinion, and this is yet to be adjudicated at City Council, frankly, on a different project.
And the second, and I think to me the more important vagueness is if we read ED1, which is a year old, it says projects shall not be located in specific plan areas.
And this is a specific
And this is
plan.
absolutely a specific plan area, and they're asking for waivers from a development standards in the specific plan.
Right.
So all this adds up to, I don't know. And I don't know what's talked about and because housing is, it's a thing that everyone wants, but when they break every single rule in the book to get another box, that's frustrating, especially when we've been almost essentially silenced.
Right, and the redevelopment plan does not allow an FAR of 3.67, and this is also within this is within the redevelopment plan, it's within the CPIO, and it's within the HPOZ. So anyway, Steve, your hand's still up.
Yeah, I had a couple more things. I don't want to take up everyone's time on my questions. I'm sure there are others, but a couple others. And 2 things I want to state off the top. One is, John, I appreciate your willingness to acknowledge what a moving target this is and how difficult it is to understand what the rules are that we're supposed to play by and that they're supposed to play by. Another point I want to make is, I know a lot of people in our community, and I have to say 100% of them are very much in favor of low-income housing, right? No one's really in opposition to that I've met in our community. But there are questions about which communities within the city are requested and where developments are created for low-income housing, and which communities are not shouldering an equal burden. And I would hope that UNNC could take a lead in being able to discern the data on that question so that when we do communicate with our elected representatives, we can do it knowledgeably. Because it's my belief that the greater CD10, and certainly within UNNC, it appears to me that we're shouldering a lot more of this than other communities are within the city. And to me, that's not a just distribution of the need to house people. So that's my political statement. I would hope that UNNC could take a lead on that. Two more questions. One is about sending a letter. I am one of the founders of the Friends of the HPOZ. I'm a leader within Jefferson Park United. I've been involved in the HPOZ since the planning of it, the second phase of it when the plan was created. And just, Laura, for your memory, when the plan was created, Craig Weber changed our draft plan, where we had very absolute statements in there to make them more vague. And now planning department is using that against the HPOZ, that vagueness, and the city attorney, I might add. But
Well,
I'd be
and the
happy
state
to,
legislature, just to be clear.
And I just also want to say, there's also, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Go ahead, John, then I'll finish.
No, I was just saying, then all rules can be broken when someone just wants to plow forward. And this is obviously taking advantage of, an incentive that the intent is good to get more affordable housing and to cut administrative red tape. But now this has been, in my opinion, and like I said, I work with this every day, this is taking it to an extreme that will have a detrimental effect to not only our neighborhood, but I don't know if you looked at the plans of this, but cutting open space by 91% and not having any common space and having no closets in the units. I mean, this developer arbitrarily chose 100 units. It wasn't what would fit, it's what they wanted. And they made it fit by eliminating anything, in my opinion, this is John Arnold's architectural opinion, anything that would make a pleasant environment for the people in the project and without the project. And that is a cross-section of rules and political drive crossed with a developer that doesn't know the neighborhood, I'm not going to level anything.
Well, I'm
up,
looking at
but-
the clock. We're past
Right,
our
so-
time on this item, and we still
I just
have
have
the
two
hands
more-
raised.
I
Sure.
just have two more points and they'll go quickly. So the first one I was trying to make is that as a leader within the Friends of the Jefferson Park HPOZ group and as a founder of Jefferson Park United, I'd be happy to collaborate with others on a letter to UNNC and to CD10. And I would say that we not write a letter to the planner. I believe the Jefferson Park planner is actually very weak, but the letter should go to Ken Bernstein, who is ultimately the decision maker within planning on these kinds of issues related to HPOZs. So I think that those are my major points. I mean, I could go through the litany of things within the HPOZ plan that I think that this proposal is in violation of. John has mentioned other items I think are equally critical. But I think there are serious issues with this, and as John said, a good concept as promoted by Mayor Bass is being exploited for bad ends, including this project, which appears to me to be warehousing of people, not housing people.
Okay.
So I agree. So I thank you, Steve, for picking up. Obviously, we're, as the chairs of a city organization, UNNC, we're limited, as is HPOZ. So I think it's entirely appropriate for you as a community member to take up the lead in writing a letter and just spearheading where that goes and how it gets administered.
Well, and Jefferson Park United seems like the obvious sender. Kristen has her hand up, and I do want to also just point out on letter B, off menu incentives. So, they're asking for all these reductions in the open space, and as a result, they don't have any room to put the trees. So they're asking for a big, significant reduction in trees as well. Kristen.
Yeah, I just have sort of a basic question about our recourse, because I know you said that, they're not coming to us or the UNNC, and we can comment all they want, but they don't really need to take that, I guess. But so my question is, I mean, all we can do, I'm asking, is all we can do is write a letter and they can take it into account or they can not take it into account, and who's they who is or is not taking it into account? And like,
Yeah, well,
so
I want to try a little bit of an answer. Kristen, the thing is, on this string of numbers and letters on the case number, one of the things they didn't put was the CCMP or CON, the certificate, the HPOC certificate case. I am not sure how it is that they can build without the certificate. But the problem is that essentially, it may be that the way ED1 was written, it's become a ministerial case. And if it's a ministerial case, then there isn't what's called CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. So it makes it very difficult to even appeal an approval. And that's not been tested in courts because this is all so new. Because essentially not meeting, if it does not meet the basic HPOZ requirement, and I would say it's an objective requirement to require the certificate of appropriateness or certificate of compatibility, whichever it is for non-contributors, that's a objective standard that you have to get one, and they don't even have it as part of their case. But I don't know that this is the one to test it on or how that test is done. I don't know if the council office would itself accept a CEQA review.
Right.
So
I guess I'm just wondering, what can we as stakeholders, besides get together and write a letter and send that to whoever?
Well, that's what Steve is offering to do.
And as citizens, we can write letters as individuals as much as we want. I recommend, if you do that, to not pile on with everything you can think of, but to stick to the facts and say, this is an issue, unprove the errors within incentives, whatever you could do to be concise about what's not emotional about the case.
Right. No, of course.
You'll get the best attention.
And as I mentioned at the top of the meeting, but not everyone was yet present, we have enabled the live transcript. And on your computers, at the bottom to the right where it says, I don't even remember, what does it say at the bottom of our screen? I'm gonna stop the share. Under more, if you go to captions, you'll find the live transcript. You can save it. We'll be saving it. You can save it too. And so all of our comments, and this is Laura speaking again, because for the comments coming from John and I, it's just going to say UNNC. So we'll have material from which to write a letter.
Okay.
For community comments.
Okay. All right. So we can, all right. That's basically it. I have to sign off, but I just wanted to see exactly what I can send to everyone in our block area who wants to. I just need to know how to direct people, basically.
Laura, I think you're on a Mac, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
You're on a Mac?
I am not. I'm on the UNNC computer.
Because I know I don't have more. I have, and maybe
other.
I have show. If you go to show captions, and
click
on the up arrow, then you get you can see you can have an option that says see full transcript.
Okay, and then can you save it? Do you have an option to save the transcript? Because if you don't, yes. we do. I mean, but I'm using the word transcript. At the top, it says who can see this transcript on the top of the screen.
There is an option to save transcript. I'm looking right now.
So that's what would be useful for anyone who's thinking of sharing. I mean, it's going to be funny. It's going to not have it. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to interpret. But anyway, and then Donna has her hand raised, and then we are going to really have to push on to these other items.
And if so, you can also email Laura and I if you have anything else that was went over, if you'd want more detail.
Yeah, and we are also streaming live to YouTube if you wanted to view this or read the transcript there too again. So we have multiple ways for people to see what's going on. Donna?
I have one suggestion for the neighborhoods. I had actually worked with Lamert Park area, Grayburn Avenue, regarding permit parking. You guys need to sit down and discuss that idea. There are going to be other issues coming up if this doesn't go through. You will never see them asking for parking because they no longer need to or want to. You're
we
not
should,
gonna have any parking.
We should look at agendizing that
Okay,
at a
we
future
can't
meeting.
So you, not a simple method, but street by street, you should be considering it. Grayburn came together with their group, Cherrywood, Lamert area, and got a real kick-ass parking program. It took them 3 years, and she had to suffer the consequences of people from these developers going after her, but they now are fully protected.
Okay.
24 hours a day.
Okay, thank you. Steve, I know you have your hand up again, and we do have 3 other items.
Yeah, just one comment about the
Okay.
letters. So my plan will be to draft a large scale letter that goes to the powers that be. But what I typically do is I also create a shorter letter that I distribute on Nextdoor and through my email list that people could then modify. So if you're looking for kind of a template to work from, I'll be providing that as well.
So anyone who wants to be on Steve's email list, please put it in the chat. And if you're not on it already, it's pretty vast, but that will get you in that loop.
Well, and again, we're going to say it's Steve utilizes it, but it's Jefferson
Yes.
Park United.
It's not official, it's not.
Well, it's not
it's
official,
a
yes.
neighbor.
Right.
So it'd be helpful if I could.
So, okay. So John's about to abandon me too. But we have 3 other items on this agenda. Okay. So I'm going to bring back up the agenda, just remind each of us what we have to get through in a little bit less than an hour. So we still have to talk about basically beer and wine at this 7-Eleven in Harvard Heights, or on the edge of Harvard Heights. A very quick, I'm just going to do it real quick on the processes and procedures and not do the presentation. And then we're going to talk about 1828, 1830 Southwestern, which is north of the freeway, but for those who are interested in our historic resources, it would be well worth staying for.
So I'm sorry, I can't say everybody, but my staff is crawling.
Okay. So the next item, and I'm not going to bother to share the screen, is this review. Well, 7-Eleven on the corner of Western and Washington. They've been there a very long time, several decades, and they were approved again 10 years ago to sell beer and wine. And at the time, and if Steve Wallace is still here, he can verify this, but at the time, we had quite a few complaints about the conditions on the grounds. There's a lot of litter in the parking lot. There's a lot of panhandlers in the parking lot. And at that time, they once again said, well, we are 7-Eleven Corporation that's applying for this. We will take care and make sure that that's all taken care of. And we also asked at the public hearing, UNNC asked at the public hearing that 7-Eleven establish what they have done in other parts of the county, which is a security service patrolling, kind of group together several 7-Eleven sites. And the count of 7-Eleven Corporation basically said there's not enough of them, we can't do it, it's too difficult. And subsequent to that, they've opened, in this last 10 years, they have opened 4 more 7-Elevens right around here. One at the corner of Washington and Crenshaw, one on Venice and 12th Avenue, one on Venice and Arlington, and one more on Adams and Normandy. So, so going back to the actual approval 10 years ago, they were ordered to keep the premises, including the parking lot, free of litter and free of nuisances, which I would say panhandlers counts as a nuisance. Steve Wallace, I'm just gonna out you here. What do you and your neighbors, or Michael as well, what's your thoughts on this? Steve or Michael? Not Michael.
I'm Michael Soderstrom speaking. I'm happy to speak to this. The grounds are sort of relative to other 7-Elevens, significantly worse. And there's also lots of crime that I see reported coming from over there.
Okay. So I feel like that what UNNC needs to do, among other things, is find, and then if we can, and then dust off our communications from a decade ago and ask 7-Eleven Corporation to send its reps to our next meeting here. So is there anybody who would think that that's an unwise path? I'm not hearing anything.
I agree. I agree with that.
Okay. So is there anything else that anyone who's here from Harvard Heights in particular, or Angeles Vista or Western Heights, if anyone's here from those, this is the intersection of those 3 neighborhoods, has to add to this initial discussion? I know I'm powering through this really quickly. I see no hands raised. So I'm going to move on to the processes and procedures ordinance, which could be a big yawn. It is a big yawn, not just could be. But basically, what's happened is that the city is implementing a whole big change to the zoning code. And it's as of next week, January 22nd, there's a whole new code in place for what they call processes and procedures. So this affects primarily applicants, but also all these case numbers that are impossible to understand will still be impossible to understand, but they will have new case numbers. So there'll be different kinds of conditional use permits, for example, and they're retaining the CUB for conditional use beverage for sale of beer and wine, and they're retaining CUX for live entertainment, but now they'll have 3. This is supposed to be a simplification, but it actually is less simple. 3 different kinds, level 1, level 2, and level 3 conditional use permits, for example. In addition, and which is where it affects us more, neighborhood councils have always been notified about, when cases are filed, and somehow there's a statement that the planning department is making, well, it was a courtesy, and it wasn't. It was actually a memorandum of understanding signed years and years ago between Plan Check NC and the planning department and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So, but they have been, we get notified of all case filings. This will make it official that we are to be, in the municipal code, to be notified of case filings and hearings. And so that's a plus. So, we're not necessarily going to be notified of updates, of additional filings in the middle between the initial filing and the hearing. And that's always the hardest part to keep track of, but we will get that. For appeals, and for those of you who have ever filed appeals, 2 big changes. One is, and it looks like Steve has already left. You should have heard this. One is that whatever the category of case it is, up until next week, depending on the kind of case, there's a different period of time in which an appeal must be filed. So some of them, it's within 10 days, some was 12 days, some was 15 days. All of them will be 15 days. So if you ever needing to write an appeal about a case, you get 15 days. In addition, the big change is that up till now, when we file an appeal, you have to write a narrative that says that the person who made the decision made an error in judgment, or, well, basically you have to accuse somebody of not doing it right. And that is no longer the case. Now it'll be an appeal where the whole case goes to the next level. Technically it's called a de novo appeal. And again, that's kind of a plus because you can bring in all the elements and not just say so-and-so made an error. So that's good, because what has happened over the years is that no zoning administrator wants to be told he or she made an error. And so they always defend their decision. So now they don't necessarily have to be so defensive. Unclear change relates to specific plans. And it was general specific plans, and I don't know how it affects design review boards like North University Park or HPOZ boards. But basically, in the language, now the citywide design guidelines supersede specific plan design guidelines. And when I attended a webinar on last Saturday, and they didn't, no, it's not good. Well, it could be good, but it's not good for HPOZs. I see a good, but they don't know really how this is affecting our HPOZs. So that's something I'm going to explore further. And I don't think we care. I mean, there's a lot of other elements to it, but it's a lot of wonky, arcane things. So I will look, see on the transcript it says walking. Wonky, W-O-N-K-Y, wonky. And we will, I will try and get more information and make sure that we understand better how this would affect me. And I just remembered one other thing. Notifications have been of hearings. All notifications are now going to be the extended 24 days in advance. So again, different kind of cases had different advance notifications, and now all of them will be 24 days. Okay, are there any questions? And you can look, it's uploaded to our agenda packet, the entire webinar presentation, but it's just slides. It's not explanations of the slides. And I've been looking for a written, sort of narrative that goes with the slides. And when I find it, I'll just add it to our agenda packet, even though the agenda will have come and gone. So just kind of bookmark this from today's agenda, bookmark the link to the Google Drive. Okay, moving on to 1828, 1830. Southwestern. And again, Steve, did you have anything to introduce while I figure out what it is I'm going to post on that? I don't know if Steve is still here. I see he's seemingly still here. But are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't have anything.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up the project plans. Basically, this is a very large project located on Western, south of the McDonald's, north of Washington, south of the McDonald's, and south of the large Ross Plaza building. You can kind of see in this rendering at the top, of the image to the left, another sort of, you see the wall of another building. And that is set to stay. Ross Plaza, the entirety of it is a very large set of parcels that originally were owned by one entity and go through to Oxford, from Western to Oxford. And what was built on them over about a 20-year period were 3 medical buildings and 1 apartment building on the Oxford side, by a group of African-American doctors and other doctors, dentists, and other medical professionals. Dr. Ross was not a person who was actually involved. That was Dr. Julian Ross, but rather he was a well-known professor at the primary medical school that African Americans could get their training at. So that this whole complex was named in honor of a professor, and he did not have any ownership interest in it. Anyway, so now I've got to figure out how to scroll through this. So I'm having a little trouble here, as always. This is a project that went to the HPOZ. And I do not know if what I am looking at here is the final version that was approved by the HPOZ. Steve, again, do you remember? Or was it tweaked further?
That looks really, I don't notice any changes. Of course, it's been a year now, but it looks
Correct.
very, very similar to what I saw, if not the exact same thing.
Well, I think it is the exact same thing, but is this the second version, if you know? Anyway, this is a version that's online now. And yet it's been described as a new version. And the first thing to note is that it is set back with a street dedication of about 7 feet. And that is no longer required. And community members had asked, but I don't know if the board had asked, for the building to not take the dedication, not have a indent on Western Avenue, just bring the building forward so that it's the same street face as everything else. And, so you just keep walking straight. And that isn't really the only issue, but that would help with the second issue, which identified by community members, but again, not the HPOZ board. And that is the still extant rear medical doctor's offices medical building. And again, so I should say, so the issue is that the original HPOZ survey, obviously back in 1998 to 2000, that era, did not identify any of these buildings as contributors to the HPOZ. They were outside the period of significance. Subsequently, a lot of changes have happened to how we evaluate buildings, but also Survey LA has developed an African American in Los Angeles context statement. And this complex was included as historic and called out in the Survey LA context statements for African Americans. So this was brought to the attention at the board meeting, at the consultation. So I don't even know if there was ever a final board meeting or if it was just 2 consultations. But even one of the board members talked about how she actually went to her doctor in the building that's still standing. And the result of that was that the Office of Historic Resources asked the applicant to hire somebody, to do a historic assessment. And they did do the historic assessment. At that time, I do not know if city planning accepted it. And the reason I do not know is because it is in the package that you'll read online, in the application, in our, that I uploaded into our agenda packet, in the application and the environmental assessment form, it's stated that it's attached to the assessment, but it is not. And John and I have asked the applicant's representative for a copy, and he has been non-responsive. But it turns out that the currently assigned planner at Development Services has also asked for the copy because it wasn't attached, and that they don't have it either. So I do not know if the original draft version, which I did find at the Office of Historic Resources, was ever accepted. But to be clear, they hired a company. I've got to be careful because we're being recorded in multiple ways. They hired an environmental company that, as far as I know from my experience looking at a lot of these cases, has never found anything to be historic and has always said it's not historic. And what they wrote was, they wrote, and Steve, you can help on this, that nothing in Harvard Heights could be deemed a contributor unless it is a residential building, which this is not. So that was one of the things they wrote. And another thing they wrote, obviously, is that it was outside the period of significance. And that 3, they said it could not be a city historic cultural monument because it's not eligible for the National Register, which is of course not the criteria. So I don't know if the department actually accepted this paperwork that I now found on my own, but which may or may not be the final assessment. So, so basically what some people had asked, and that would include me, but not only me, was for them to please move the building forward and to consider a redesign on the rear that would not demolish and also be a better buffer for this very large project for the single family homes and other smaller properties that are on Oxford with an R2 zone. And somehow just redesign the rear of this, maybe have less parking, maybe use that rear building for the amenities building, community room, workout rooms. I mean, just use it for amenities and even perhaps some housing, loft style housing. And obviously, in terms of what was submitted, none of that was considered. So that's what I see. Again, John and I had emailed the representative a couple of times over the last several weeks after this appeared in Urbanized LA. So that was in mid-December. So about a month. It's been hanging around for about a month, and we have not had any responses. So that's me talking for a long time. And that said, it's a pretty nice infill design from just the look. It's big, but anyway. Okay, so does anybody have any questions, comments, anything? I'm gonna stop the share because I've been talking way too much. Okay, perhaps not.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. I have some
Okay.
public comment.
Yes, anybody who has any comment at all, just raise your hand or.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find the hand icon.
That's okay. So Edgar, it's fine with me if you wish to have some public comment.
Yes, so I'm Edgar Castañeda, a member of the Western States Regional Council of Carpenters. We believe the city should require the project to be built with contractors that will hire locally, pay prevailing wage, and utilize apprentices from a state accredited apprenticeship training program. Workforce requirement reduces construction-related environmental impacts while benefiting the local economy and workforce development. In a recent study, 2020 report titled Putting California on the High Road, Jobs and Climate Action Plan for 2030, the California Workforce Development Board concluded that investments in growing, diversifying, and upskilling California's workforce can positively affect return on climate mitigation efforts. Recently, the state of California reiterated its its commitment towards encouraging workforce development and housing affordability through the Affordable Housing and High Road Jobs Act of 2022, otherwise known as Assembly Bill AB 2011, which requires projects pay workers a prevailing wage and hire from state-accredited apprenticeship programs for projects meeting certain cities, affordability and development standards. Thank you for your time. That concludes my public comment.
Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. So, Steve, do you remember if this ever went to the board for a final recommendation?
I don't think it did, no.
Because I do know that they voted that they liked the new design. I mean, you're the HVAC, but maybe that was an okay to file as opposed to a hearing for the certificate.
I can't remember. It's been so long.
I know, it's been a long time. Okay. All right. So I don't know if anybody else, so I was panicking that we would not get out of here at 9 o'clock, but did anybody else have any comments or questions about this one?
The building in question is that little one that's behind
Yes.
the car wash now, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's the little one because there was originally 4 buildings. One of them was demolished to make way for the car wash. And obviously things have changed in terms of how people evaluate. But the one at the rear is not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but it's still exactly the way it was when it was built because there are photos of its construction. And the reason there are photos is because it was basically one of the first medical buildings for African Americans in Los Angeles, maybe west of the Mississippi, according to the articles, and 1,000 people showed up for its opening day. So that's why there's photographs from the time. And it's so one can compare the photos to the building now. So it's not about pretty or ugly, it's about more the cultural heritage on it. And it's about the transition toward, oh, well, that would be interesting to you, Michael. You live on Oxford, right? You probably want this transitioned away a little bit, and your neighbors probably do as well. Okay. All right, so we're going to try and get them here for a real presentation and try to figure out from the planning staff what the real timeline is for the approval on this project, but it's not a speeding one the way the first one was on Jefferson and Arlington. And, okay, I see no hands. I see that only I am talking. So moving on, we have, if any, the only other item would be on this agenda is, hang on, I'll read it officially. Follow up to previous cases to the ENS, which is the early notifications, and any old business. So are cases or old business that we should be discussing, or should we be adjourning? Teresa?
I was going to say, I can't think of any follow-up, and if there's nothing else, I believe you should adjourn.
Okay, so I'm going to remind everybody, because I see there's chat and there's this transcript. If before you leave, we will automatically have the chat and the transcript. But if you want to save it to your own computer, you go to the bottom of the page, and again on this computer it says the word more. But you can click on the chat and save the chat, and you can click on captions and save the transcript. So if you want to do either or both of those things before you check out, I'm going to leave this meeting on for another like 2 minutes so that I and you have time to do that. So officially we're adjourned, but the recording's still going for another 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Hey, Laura, I just wanted to say, when you put the computer away,
Yes,
since you're
turn
going to be
off.
well, no, I was going
Oh.
to say, you know what? Since you're going to be
Leave
there
it up.
tomorrow night, just go ahead and close it and don't worry about the power strip. Just put it
Okay.
away and it will let it all just be there.
Okay, and
available
charge
to
the
you tomorrow.
computer.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
cool. All right, I can do that.
Okay, and that was a great discussion earlier.
Yes, and then it became the Laura show.
Yeah, well, that's fine too. You know,